Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on in to a very special edition of NFL Afters today. Jimmy, it is not about us today.
No.
It is about the people. It is about fantasy. It is about fantasy football particularly. It's about a hobby, a lifestyle that takes up a lot of our energy for 5 or so months of the year. And we're not going to pretend that we are the guides to take you through the mountain ranges of the fantasy experience this season.
I've had more questions than ever. So obviously we're getting our first NFL game here. A lot of my mates play AFL fantasy, rugby league fantasy, and they're like, you know what?
It's child's play.
Child's play. They
It's
don't
not
understand
even. No.
how serious this is and how in-depth this is.
Dream team nonsense.
Yep. And they're asking me, and I said, just wait till I do a podcast with someone who knows a lot more than me, and then I'll pretend those takes are my own. That's what I said to my friends.
That person today is one of the absolute best in the industry, Liz Loza, ESPN's own, and a fantasy expert analyst of the highest order. Liz, a friend of ESPN Australia for a few years now. Thank you for returning to our airwaves and our shores.
Oh, you are welcome. I am still waiting, Laurie, though, for you to procure that introduction to Danny Ricciardo. I don't care that he is off the grid. I am still very much interested in, just telling him I'm a fan.
He does a lot more like media and things now because he has more time in his hands. Yeah.
He's in the space. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. Also, off the grid, nice reference.
Yeah.
Right off the top. But look, today, it's all about fantasy. We know that your drafts are coming up, the biggest weekends for many people in the NFL calendar. When hope springs eternal for all of us, Jimmy, we have faith that we're not going to embarrass ourselves again.
Then the end of week 1, and I'm like, trade them all.
I know. I will say the best chances I've had in recent seasons are when I do listen to Liz's helpful tips and expertise. Jimmy, you were how many out of 12 leagues last year?
I won 2 leagues out of 12.
Which, you look, 2 out of 12 is better than 0 out of 2 for me. Yeah. So, you know what? I will give you some tiny skerrick of credit.
As I always say, the more leagues you're in, the more chance you have to win.
It's a numbers game. So I guess, Liz, starting off, as we come into these couple of weekends where we know most people are drafting, what's the kind of storyline that you have not been able to shake? It's just a drumbeat that you are on board with as you head towards draft weekend.
I mean, since May, I have been planting my flag on Jonathan Brooks really finally breaking into his professional career the way it was meant to be. Now, if you guys don't recall, he was the first running back selected back in the 2024 NFL draft by the Carolina Panthers, a team that he is still on. He unfortunately tore the ACL in his right knee twice over a span of 13 months. So he's only played 3 games in his professional career, but this is the year, gentlemen. I mean, this is a dynamic player. He has a versatile skill set. He can run, he can catch. And the only thing standing in front of him right now, ever since Rico Dowdle was left the team, the Panthers let Rico Dowdle walk this offseason. They completely ignored the position over this past NFL draft. And the only thing standing between Brooks as the RB1 is Chuba Hubbard. Hubbard dealing with a hamstring injury. I was in on Brooks before the soft tissue issues occurred for Chuba Hubbard. So I think that Brooks, my bold take is that by Halloween, he will definitively be the Panthers RB1. He's also has incredible value because a lot of people are worried about, the injury history, which is valid, but he's coming off of draft boards in the double-digit rounds. That's incredible value.
Especially a team that's shown productivity at the running back position. If they find a running back that they're happy to lead the charge, they'll tote the rock plenty of times, give that opportunity. And he kind of retains a bit of that. There's almost a mythical nature about Jonathan Brooks because the talent was real coming out of college, but it's just been pain, and injury and pain since then. But I guess let's take a step back and look at the big picture here now. When you're looking at how positions are lining up, where strengths are in different classes, in positional classes. Is there a strategy that's speaking to you this year that kind of plays into how the fantasy field is laying out there? Obviously, you've got to adapt to the draft that you're in, but is there a strategy you're looking to more often than not this time around?
Absolutely, Laurie, and it's part of why I've been tracking Brooks so much because running back dries up so quickly. I mean, we've seen the running backs by committee become more and more popular as the NFL evolves in this new era. But from a fantasy point of view, that means that there were fewer bell cows available. And now there are fewer bell cows who haven't, whose odometer ratings, if you will, aren't terribly high. So for me, running back, like the top 13 guys come off the board right away. I would like to go into, I believe very much in an anchor RB strategy, particularly this year because the position is so thin. But in my first 3 rounds, I want 2 running backs and a top tier wide receiver. I want those positions, the 2 running backs shored up over my first 3 rounds. But if I end up, like, depending where I'm picking in the first round, I wouldn't mind like a Jamar Chase. It doesn't have to be one of the first 2 guys. I don't mind a Jamar Chase and then hitting running back back to back. So I do not need to worry about it, because sometimes, as I think you intimated, not everybody plays according to script. ADP is not gospel. It is merely a suggestion. So if you're expecting for ADP to always work out and for, 1 or 2 guys in the middle rounds to, quote, fall to you, that's not a guarantee. So why not take what you can early and then find a guy like Jonathan Brooks, who is going in the double-digit rounds and could potentially pay off, but you only need him as a bench guy to start.
We are getting more fans in, as I mentioned. We got our first game, so there's a lot more interest in it. Obviously, people going to Melbourne saying, I'm playing fantasy now, and I'm trying to explain sort of what you're setting up there to my friends, and they go, well, why am I not taking a quarterback? Shouldn't we be taking quarterbacks? Why? So can you explain to the casual why in this we don't do that?
So I am not really interested personally in investing in a quarterback before round 6 at the earliest. And that is because, to your point, it's an incredibly deep position, meaning there are so many options available. Right now, the top tier of quarterbacks is Danny Ricciardo's best friend, in a tier all his own, Josh Allen. I'm just trying. Like, really, Danny, can this get to you? Do you like redheads?
For Danny Rick will tag you. Right. We'll tag you in this.
Josh Allen in a tier by himself. He is going in the top 3 to 4 rounds, right? I get that. I don't want to invest in it because I think there's more depth available later. But also, as we've seen these quarterbacks, we've seen their skill set evolve, and there's more mobile options available at the position. The cheat codes, if you will, the fantasy scoring has only increased. So now you can get Lamar Jackson. I did a mock draft today on Fantasy Focus, and Lamar Jackson fell to the 6th round. You don't need to reach for a quarterback. And also a player like Justin Herbert, who has consistently fallen inside of the top 10 fantasy players at the position, even in a down year, he's available in like the 9th round, 11th round sometimes. So Trevor Lawrence is another great example. So you don't really need to spend that kind of draft capital on a quarterback early when there's so many options late. I will say, though, caveat to that, asterisk for the casuals, as you call them. I didn't say that. That if you do end up not drafting one of those top 2-tier quarterbacks, I don't mind drafting a backup QB just in case. Like, I really like Jaden Daniels this year. Lamar Jackson, another great example of players who have an enticing, exciting skill set because they are so mobile, but sometimes that invites injury. And so then if you end up drafting a Tyler Shuck, who's the quarterback in New Orleans, really late, you just have a little bit of an insurance policy at the most important position in football, not fantasy football, though.
Or if you just want to get really weird and you just draft Tyler Shuck as your starter, which I may be guilty of.
I don't hate it.
Shuck guy.
By the way, I don't hate it if you really want to wait. It depends how the draft falls to you. I think Shuck has a lot of sleeper potential this year and sneaky rushing upside.
Be nice if Jordan Tyson could stay on the field, because it sounds like we're looking at a couple months out with him, with the news that dropped about that hamstring injury. But I completely agree, especially when you look at the top of those quarterbacks. There are question marks, right? Drake May. Yes, A.J. Brown is there, but we know what the schedule was last year. The schedule was probably easier on the quarterbacks they faced rather than defenses, but it's a serious question. You look at, a Jaden Daniels, there's been injury and there's been change within the system there. Your guy, Jalen Hurts, who has been a fantasy stud.
Jalen Hurts actually has not been a stud. If you look at the numbers over the past 2 seasons, I'm not taking away from his epic performance and talent as a player, but he has fallen outside of the top 5 fantasy players at the position in back-to-back seasons. And the efficacy of the tush push, the conversion on it, dropped significantly last year. There's a new O-line coach now in town. Well, I don't think the team is going to phase it out. I don't know how. I mean, part of the reason Dallas Goedert had so many touchdowns last season was because the tush push wasn't working as well. That O-line, Jason Kelsey, obviously no longer a part of it. So there's some change there. We know that without A.J. Brown, we're not expecting Hurts' passing efficiency to improve. And as a runner, there's been a decline. So I don't I would not consider him one of these top elite players anymore, just in terms of brand name, but not in terms of data.
All the more reason when there's question marks over these names that we're used to seeing so high up draft boards to look at later. You mentioned a bunch of them there. You could throw out a Caleb Williams. You could throw out a Dak Prescott with the offense that he has. So looking at the big picture there, that we're looking at Anchor RB taking some running backs early, which for a traditionalist and old school fantasy football player like myself is music to my ears.
We love the running back.
Jimmy's conjured up here a Liz's top three for us to take to. So, Jimmy, I'm going to hand you in here to hand it off to you, should I say. No play action, a legitimate, there you go.
Take it, I got the rock.
You have the talking ball to set this one up.
Well, look, I mean, the big three I'm after, Liz, and we can work through them, but the lock. So, obviously, the safest pick, and this is your opinion, by the way. I'm not saying, the unanimous, but for you, what player or players do you think could be that? I'd love to know the reach. So, the player that you're looking at, where other players or other people that you're, drafting against go, what? Hang on a sec. Why are you picking this? And one I really love is that I feel like sometimes we get caught up and I can fix them. This may not be a player that you love watching, but you just think, I can. This year, there's something different I've seen, maybe in preseason or a different coaching change. You know what? They're going to be different for me. I'm going to draft them, and this will be a little different. But I want to start, obviously, with your lock, or if you've got a few, who are these really safe picks?
So my safest pick at running back is Bijan Robinson. There's been a little bit of debate between whether or not Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson should be the first overall pick. I prefer Robinson, but I'm splitting hairs here, admittedly. The man just got paid, as did Gibbs, but it's still nice to sign a 3-year extension worth up to $75 million. That's $1 million US. We know that Robinson is an every down talent. He's been inside the top 5 running backs in carries and receptions in back-to-back seasons. He's attached to a play caller in Kevin Stefanski who likes to establish the run. Tyler Algier is now in Arizona, so we will not experience as much goal line poaching as we did in previous seasons. He has yet, knock on some wood, to miss a single game over 3 professional seasons, and he's still only 24 years old. So that is my lock at running back, the safest option on the board.
What about wide receiver? I mean, usually a bit of a position where there's a bit of depth. Is there someone there that you really love, like a little bit of a lock?
So there is depth at wide receiver. Now, I have Puka Nacua, which is a bit surprising to a lot of people, especially after the production that Nacua posted in 2025. I have him ranked as my wide receiver 4. I would prefer, for the safety, for the floor, to draft Jamar Chase. I mean, yes, JSN's 2025 breakout was a thing of beauty, and I'd happily roster him if that was where I was in the draft. But the fact is that Jamar Chase has just been doing it longer. There is more data to support the height of his floor. He has managed at least 100 grabs, gone over 1,000 receiving yards, scored at least 7 touchdowns for 3 straight seasons, and he's finished inside the top 12 fantasy wide receivers for 5 consecutive seasons. The fact that he has been doing it longer, just to me, makes him a safer pick. He's also averaged over 20 fantasy points per game with Burrow, and because we know that Burrow's got, some injury history, 15.3 fantasy points without. So the dip between quarterback is not that significant, which I think also makes him a really safe option at the position.
What player are you going to be picking way ahead of everyone else? And they're going to go, hey, what's going on here?
I have a bunch, but you know what? Because the Rams are playing in Australia, let's talk about one of the members of their backfield. Spoiler, it's not Kyren Williams. I'm really interested in Blake Corum because he delivered in his second season. He doubled his carries. He tripled his rushing numbers. He was ultra efficient. He managed 5.1 yards per touch. He was super explosive. He ripped off 10 runs of 15 or more yards. And all of that really, it really made Sean McVay pay attention because you could see just ahead of the Rams bye last week that Corum started to emerge. He really started to get those higher workloads. And he managed double-digit carries in 6 of the team's last 10 regular season games. All 6 of his touchdowns, he had 0 as a rookie, by the way, all 6 of his touchdowns also came after the Rams' Week 8 bye last week. And this is the part that gets me from a strategic point of view. Kyren Williams, the team's RB1, assumed RB1, managed just 2 games of more than 15 carries during that same span. weeks 9 through the end of the regular season. So I think that Corum could really push for a 50-50 split. Maybe you could say, well, that's worse for Williams than it is good for Corum. But if anything were to happen to Williams, then we know what kind of insurance policy Corum could be. And also the fact that these two players are being drafted 9 to 10 rounds apart makes me very I don't have to wait until the 14th round to grab Corum. I'll reach for him in the 12th. That's fine. There's still so much value there and so much upside. Why not?
All right, last one, Liz. Who are you going to fix?
Yeah.
Well, who's this season you're like, you know what, it's going to
You're
be different.
asking me
On
the
my
men
team?
that I would like to fix. That's a really, I don't know if we have enough time.
We've all been guilty of falling for a wounded bird before.
Yeah.
You know.
I can change him. I'd say Daniel Ricciardo, but isn't he perfect, Liz? There's nothing to fix.
I mean, again, he's not driving a car, so there are a couple of things. His wrists, maybe, could use some fixing. But, this is all of us, right? Like, sometimes I fall in love with potential. Sometimes fellows have a bit of a white knight kink. I, though, really love to fix someone who is not necessarily broken because the price that they are coming to me at is reasonable. I want the volatility baked into the ADP rather than trying to fix a situation. And that player this season has been Christian Watson. I have never been a Christian Watson apologist. I did not like the game coming out of college. So I've been a little off on him, but this is an investment I am willing to make, partially because the Green Bay Packers made the big investment first. They signed Watson to a 4-year extension worth an estimated $110.5 million. That signals some confidence in his ability to stay healthy, which has always been the problem. It also signals a promotion in opportunities, if you will, especially considering that Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks are no longer on the squad, freeing up over 130 targets. Right now, Watson is going in the 11th round. So am I worried that again, another bench player, will he have his wild weeks where he, absolutely boom? Sure. Is he maybe going to get hurt? Sure. But if I'm getting 11th round value, what do I care? Also, just to contextualize the ceiling available here, Watson has managed a career touchdown length of over 23 yards. And that I like very well when you note that Jordan Love has led all qualifying quarterbacks in deep throw rate since 2023. It
feels like every season we're waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to emerge with blinking headlights from a Green Bay Packers wide receiver room. The money suggests have a look at Watson. And you throw in as well that Tucker Kraft talking this week said that, look, I expect them to kind of ease me in through the first half of this season as well. I'm not going to, he's not anticipating being absolutely pillaged with targets over and over and over in that first part of the season. So we love the insight. We love that you're not afraid to go after someone that, might need a little TLC and work to reach their full potential.
Like the therapy bill has been paid for. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to front that. So fine, go every Wednesday and get yourself fixed, and then I will just reap the benefits.
Talking our language. All right. Now, speaking of talking our language, something that you and me certainly got told plenty when we were growing up, when you drive past the Golden Arches.
Macca's, we drive past. Mum, can we stop? Can we get McDonald's?
Nowadays, it's when I say, I'm going to make homemade pizzas tonight. And Chad's like, you sure we couldn't? I'd like to think I've got a decent homemade pizza in me, but you sure we can't order Domino's or Pizza Hut? So we have that at home. Who is a player that we can think of as, all right, there might be an early round archetype that looks like this, but no, we've got that at home. It's better for you. It's cheaper. It's better value. We're going to find it later. Trust me, it's going to taste delicious. Who comes to mind for you, Liz?
I mean, I already talked about Tyler Shuck. I really like him. I think that, again, he's a...
Speaking Laurie's language. Laurie's in love with Tyler Shuck.
He's a lesser known entity because he didn't start the season as the state. He did not begin the season as the Saints starter. He overtook Spencer Rattler in week 9. And then he went on this crazy bender over the fantasy playoffs, which was really, really well timed. And he managed, I believe, over that time, 20 fantasy points per game. So it was incredible. Everything was clicking. He was the QB 12 in rushing yards per game over the back half of last season. I love the system that he's in. Kellen Moore, I think, will continue to scheme to his strengths. We love the up-tempo nature of Moore's offense. And as you mentioned, Jordan Tyson, probably not going to be on the field for 2 months, but Shuck was able to do all of this without Tyson last year. So I think there's a great opportunity where he will be able to pick up where he left off. So a quarterback, if you want to wait, I'm with you, Laurie. That's a good option. Running back in PPR formats, Kenny Gainwell is my guy. After he put together such a career season in 2025, he was the RB4 in receptions, the RB5 in receiving yards. Tampa Bay clearly took note. They sent Rachaad White packing and said, Kenny G, come on in with a 2-year contract that has, I believe, up to $10 million guaranteed in it. Now, Kenny G should fill that pass-catching role. He's playing a complementary role to Bucky Irving, who's still dealing with a shoulder injury, whose playing style often invites injury, who can't really be that counted on. So I think in PPR-friendly formats, Kenny Gainwell has a real opportunity. And we also saw last year when Jaylen Warren was sidelined, he crushed it. So there's some nice insurance policy value there as well. And finally, George Kittle. He's he's a name that you would imagine, like you would really like to have him at home, except I guess he went out sojourning because now he's available again super late. And it's because of this Achilles injury that he suffered. But the Achilles, apparently, the rupture was like higher up in his calf, which meant for better healing. So you might need to Band-Aid that for a second. But Kittle is presenting such great value. We know that he is an absolute star in this offense. And when you look at the numbers, he has been so consistent for a player that is inconsistent in terms of their on-field appearance. Outside of his rookie effort, Kittle has never posted a season in which he's averaged fewer than 12.7 fantasy points per game. For reference, that's the tight end 6. So he's been, at worst, a tight end 6 in every single game he's played. And despite missing 14 regular season contests, he also leads the position in touchdowns over the last 5 years with 38. So it doesn't matter how many games he missed because he's going to get you the 6 anyway.
The workouts from George Kittle look absolutely ridiculous for where he's come back from that Achilles industry. To see the explosion that he's already running with, we're going to hold out fingers crossed that he does make the flight, but we understand that that's up in the air. He said,
"Don't hurt us like that. We want to do tequila shots and rip Pokemon cards with him. The invite's out."
Can I give you another tight end?
Standing.
Let me give you another tight end real quick as I'm like thinking about it.
Let's
because
do it.
Obviously the situation in Miami is very different than it's been in previous years. No Mike McDaniel, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle, obviously off the squad. Greg Dulcich, I think, has an opportunity to show up. And yes, part of this is just addition by subtraction, but Dulcich really did show up last season. He was dynamic after the catch down the stretch of last year. He's been showing really nice chemistry with Malik Willis. So I think that there's an opportunity, again, if you're just throwing darts and you want to stream at the position, Dulcich, you shouldn't do this, but you can like draft a kicker and then still draft Dulcich after that. That's how ladies going.
I mean, Willis is going to throw it to someone. I'm not really stoked about that wide receiving room, so that's probably a good pickup.
No, the fact that I could name 3 of them in our last show is a cause for concern, and I might need to reevaluate what I'm doing with my spare time that I can name 3 of those.
Laurie and his son sat down and watched preseason Dolphins football. I'm like, that's commitment. That to your craft. That's
that's
research. You've got to start them early. Forgive Jimmy if you notice just a little quiver in his voice there. He is a huge Tua Tagovailoa apologist as well.
Comeback player of the year at Atlanta. One of my great takes this offseason.
There's just some pain there. But, I mean, I think there's a number of great names there. And to pair up like someone like a Dulcich with a Kittle if he's going to miss a couple of weeks, or if we do see him gracing down on the MCG turf, the grass.
He loves grass.
We know he loves grass. We know that he's a huge fan of that. As my earpiece has just gone wandering, looking for George Kittle to see if he's already made his way down under. Jimmy, why don't you, as we move on, why don't you tee us up with our closing seg here for Liz before we let her get on out of here and enjoy a little bit of West Coast sunshine.
Yeah, look, Liz, we just want to do a little bit of a blind ranking here of some of the all-time fantasy seasons. Now, I will be honest with you, these are some great seasons here. We don't have any absolute stinkers. There's no stinkers in here, but these aren't the top 5 greatest seasons ever. These are just the top 5. Laurie and I were chatting about yesterday. We were kind of having a bit of a conversation, and we were just like, what kind of springs to mind when you think about fantasy for us?
All-time seasons that defined it defined not just that campaign, but lasted in the memory from years and years,
Yeah.
and probably left people chasing after the next version of this for a long time.
Put this 1 to 5, but the first I'm going to give you is Puka Nacua in 2023. The 5th round rookie, I think he was completely ignored in a lot of fantasy drafts. Some people got him late. He finished with 105 catches, 1,486 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, broke the rookie records for reception and receiving yards.
I'm hedging, so let's say 5 because you've got to have better than that. I mean, that was great, but
All right, let's have a conversation about a quarterback that emerged from not just the doldrums, but the abyss and more in 2010, the Michael Vick 2010 campaign, when he emerged on that Philadelphia Eagles team and was delivering not just quarterback 1 numbers, but running back 2, running back 1 numbers as well, all packaged into one. I mean, the stats were ridiculous. He was undrafted because I believe it was the Kevin Colby who just started in Philadelphia. And I mean, he, led all players in fantasy scoring that year. 6 total touchdowns and more than 50 points against Washington. The deep ball to Deshaun Jackson still gets played over and over again when they started the game with the length of the field.
He won fantasy leagues. People just picked up this free agent and then it was over.
It was done. So not only was it a remarkable comeback, but a defining fantasy season. Where would we put that in your blind rankings 1 to 5? We've already got Puka sitting in 5. Where are you dropping the Michael Vick comeback campaign?
I think I would rank that 2 potentially because it also, Michael Vick's play started to define a new style within the NFL, right? Like this idea of a mobile quarterback was much more of an idea. It was an anomalistic situation, and now it has become the norm. So because he was a genre changer, an edge pusher, quite literally, then I would say that that's got to be a little bit higher because he changed the game. He broke it and changed it.
We're going AP all day. Adrian Peterson, 2012, less than 9 months after tearing his ACL MCL, rushed for 2,097 yards, just 9 yards short of NFL record, won the league MVP. Where does AP sit for you?
I'm going to go with 4, only because it was incredible, but now we're spoiled because AP did do that, and now medical advancements have gone so far that we now expect 9 months, and an ACL is no big deal. So I think that what he did was he normalized this incredibly fast recovery and maybe warped the tremendousness with which that is achieved.
He came back faster from the ACL than I did from mowing the lawn on the weekend. So, talk about changing the paradigm.
I was going to say, he came back faster than our new couch. I can't get up that quickly. It takes me 9 months to get out of this thing.
All right, number 4. We're talking about just coming out of nowhere. But, I mean, this is a player that I think a lot of us look back on with some nostalgia, some happy memories, and some frustrations over what could have been, and maybe what could have been in a different era of the NFL. Josh Gordon, 2013, maybe the last happy memory for the Cleveland Browns, but just absolutely erupting. Drafted kind of in the mid to late rounds, kind of ADP was somewhere between round 7 to 10, but I mean, throwing up over 22 points a game. Finished the wide receiver 2 overall, but obviously wide receiver 1 in points per game because he didn't even play the whole season. Anyone that doesn't have to register back then, 16 games played and still notching over 1,600 yards.
And multiple quarterbacks?
Absolutely
Didn't matter
ridiculous.
Who was thrown to him?
3 quarterbacks dealing with, which, par for the course in Cleveland, but not for most all pros. Yeah. But where does the Josh Gordon season that, you talk about a fantasy championship winner, I think the Venn diagram from did you have Josh Gordon on your team to did you win your fantasy title was basically a circle.
I like the 3 spot here for him because while it was awesome and we root for underdogs, even if they don't start as underdogs but become underdogs, I feel like we need to remind the fantasy community of Josh Gordon the way you did me, because no one will ever complain about Kyle Pitts again. Right? Like, even though the reasons for the discrepancy, the reasons for the delayed breakout were very, very different between the 2 players, and I am not making that analogy, the wanting this unicorn to happen and it not happening, and then it finally happening is Kyle Pitts-ian, and that has been a headache for a lot of fantasy managers. Also, Kyle Pitts, by the way, in terms of touchdowns, I love this trivia since we're doing a bit of trivia. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe he gets 6 this year.
He comes up every year, and everyone jokes about drafting first. Just a quick take on Kyle Pitts. What are your thoughts this year?
He was the tight end 2 overall, not in fantasy points per game, but overall last season. Weirdly, Travis Kelce was the tight end 3 overall. Your boy, Tua Tagovailoa, obviously loves to check down to the middle of the field. What a dynamic skill set. We love a quarterback who needs to rely on a tight end, even if that tight end is better on the outside as a receiver.
Feed him.
But I mean, there's an opportunity here for Kyle Pitts. He's only competing for targets with Drake London, so the target volume should stay pretty robust. I have him ranked, I think, inside my top, like a tight end 8, tight end 7 sort of situation.
Tend to think that the expertise is shining through in how this top 5 blind rankings has been managed, because with our last option for you,
probably the greatest, LT, Daniel Tomlinson. Well done.
True story. I was like, they got to put LT in here somewhere. I'm not going to bite it on the one spot until you mention LT. So go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, look, rushed for 1,815 yards, added 508 receiving yards, scored 31 touchdowns, threw for 2 touchdown passes, just for a little bit extra. Wasn't even I think he was ranked 3rd overall. Larry Johnson and Sean Alexander were the consensus 1-2 as well.
It was a different time.
So you could have picked him up 3. The greatest ever fantasy season, Liz?
Yes, undeniably, and we love it even more because what a way to come full circle when we're talking about running backs and how that maybe doesn't exist anymore.
To have sat there with the security of knowing that your first overall pick was going to deliver you 2 touchdowns and over 100 scrimmage yards every single fantasy.
30.1 points per game.
I mean, I'm lucky if half my roster registers 30.1 points per game most of the time. Liz, before we let you get on out of here.
Are you happy with that ranking, by the way?
Quickly, Liz? How do you feel about your top 5?
Yeah.
LT number 1, Michael Vick number 2, Josh Gordon number 3, Adrian Peterson and Puka 5. I think that I stand by it.
If you're wondering if Liz is in draft season form, she's in draft
without
season
even
form.
knowing. I feel like that's a pretty solid. I'd probably do it that way. That's
absolute rolling thunder. All right, I've got one name on my mind, and it burst out over the start of preseason football, and as you look at, I feel like there's some wide receiver risk early on. There's certain wide receivers that I'm a little confused by why they're ranked that highly, or at least the ADP is that high. But I'm looking at only age 29 DJ Moore and the opportunity that exists ahead of him with your friend, Daniel Ricciardo's mate, Josh Allen in Buffalo, talking about a guy that was literally calling on DBs in the open field in that game, in his first look in those Bills colors in preseason action. With the scenario that's there, and perhaps I'm speaking as someone who was not on board the Diggs to Buffalo landing spot and how that absolutely erupted, at least for a few good seasons before it turned sour. Why should I not be looking at a value play like a DJ Moore and just thinking this is screaming at me that this versatile skill set's going to get put to good use with Brady and Josh up there?
I agree with you. I have Moore ranked fairly high. I love him as a flex option. I love the floor he presents. The argument against him is that Joe Brady likes to spread the ball around, and so the target volume will not be so secure. My counter to that will be that this is a team with a very clear Super Bowl window and a franchise player at the position who has been in desperate need of a downfield threat for season after season. And despite trades made and draft picks spent, that has not come into fruition. And now he finally has a guy who is reliable, perhaps not flashy, perhaps not still at the crescendo of his career, but someone who can deliver. And I want to give Josh Allen, if I am Joe Brady and I am the Bills brass, someone that he can whip that ball to on a regular basis and know will haul it in. That is DJ Moore. And I think while he may not be flashy, I love his floor, and I'm happy to have him as a flex in every single league. Good call out on your part, Laurie.
See, Liz,
Lost Nose Ball.
You go on a lot of shows, many of them on ESPN, but you are known across the industry appearing in every single platform, and I like to think that perhaps this is the first show you've gone on where forget the fanboying over your Jameer Gibbses of the world or your CeeDee Lambs of the world. You've got a Tua fan and a DJ Moore acolyte here, just waiting to learn more and carry those ridiculously niche flags into the 2026 fantasy campaign.
I love your commitment and I love the research done and all of that. I am confident will suit you quite well and serve you quite well in the season.
Oh, well, a drought has to end at some point, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, mate, this year.
This year.
If you get in 10 leagues.
That's going to do us for today on a special Fantasy Primer edition of NFL Afters. A huge, huge thank you to Liz for joining us. Liz, we cannot wait to consume all the content of yours across social and obviously on ESPN, all the platforms, all the TV, social, digital. A huge thanks again for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
I was just actually going to get on my phone and make sure I start tagging Dan Ricciardo for Liz, so... That's what I'm doing.
Go. All right. Jimmy's going to go join more leagues and send more unsolicited DMs.
Hey, Dan, you want to jump in my league or I'll jump in yours? I'll bring my friend Liz. You'll love her.
All right. For that guy, for the inimitable Liz Loza, and for me, thank you all for joining in. We'll see you same time, same channel. Until then, enjoy football being back.